Hi, I'm Matt. If life was a goalpost, I would hit it every time. I'm Matt. This is Joel. Welcome to Curva Americana. So, we're going to be talking about MLS salary cap right now.
Yes.
Do you think that the reason MLS is so far behind the leagues around the world is not necessarily because of the country we live in, but because of the salary cap?
Yes and no.
How so?
All right, so I think one of the reasons is the salary cap. I feel like it has its restrictions, obviously, and doesn't
Right.
allow MLS to reach its full potential in what it can sign. If you're only allowed a certain amount of money, you're not going to get a certain quality player.
Right.
Like there's only so much you can do with the money that you have. Another part of it is fan interest,
How so?
growing fan interest.
So you think like the more fan interest that there is in the league, like the salary cap will kind of increase, or
I mean, it can only help sales, I would think.
that's true.
So it's kind of like a two-edged sword. You're going to get fan interest by bringing in good players, but if you don't have the fans there in the stands, then
Right.
you're not going to get that money in the first place.
So I completely blanked. Hold on. Well, we'll just like cut
That
this
was
part out.
random anyway.
Do you think that it's the league or the ownership groups of the teams that want the salary cap? Like, you think Don Garber is like, I want a salary cap? Or do you think it's more of like the ownership groups pressuring Don Garber into being like, you're going to have a salary cap, or we're drawing our team?
There's a tough question on that. I think, personally, I think that the commissioner and like the whole like front office of the MLS
Mm-hmm.
has a little bit of a say, obviously, in that, and I feel like they do want it to have a salary cap just to keep expenses down.
Right. Keep expensive down. Keep expenses down, profits up.
So, I think that's really kind of what they're looking at, because in America it's
all salary cap.
it's all salary cap, but it's mostly always been okay. It's the NFL, it's the NBA, it's the MLB, and how have they been successful is by limiting their losses and making sure that people don't go overspending what they don't need to.
And that's like, don't quote me on this because I've read this like a year and a half ago somewhere. It was a NFL team owner bought Aston Villa.
Yes, I did hear about that.
And he started losing so much money that he had to sell the club again because they don't have a salary cap. So it's like over here, they're always making a profit. But because of that, the league quality is really low. So I think there needs to be like a happy medium. Like maybe raise the salary cap a bit. So maybe don't make the designated player rule $1 million and over. Maybe make it like $3 million and over.
Yeah. 3 or 5, maybe?
Maybe up the amount of designated player spots you can have, which I think they're doing. I think they're doing it to where they'll allow you to buy like a fourth one. But I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. That could be like a football manager thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's actually an MLS rule.
But to answer your question, whether it's like Don Garber in the MLS or if it's the ownership group,
Maybe a little bit of both.
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, one, the owners don't want to lose money.
Right.
And I don't think Don Garber and the MLS, they don't want to lose money.
Right.
It's a growing league. We're getting more people interested.
Right. So we're gonna have to increase the salary cap at some point.
So maybe they're thinking, okay, once we have more people interested, we're trying to do these things, because maybe that's why they're doing the expansion stuff.
Yeah.
Is because they want that's another way to get people interested without necessarily having to raise the salary cap. Just reach more people.
Right.
Tell them that MLS is here. Follow it.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of on the topic of a controversial system in MLS, do you think they should add promotion and relegation to the American soccer system? Because
that is an extremely tough question to ask. But me personally, it would be very interesting to see it. I kind of like the idea of promotion and regulation.
Yeah, that would. I think the removal of the salary cap and the addition of promotion and relegation kind of go hand in hand. Because then, if you don't remove the salary cap, then they're not going to have the best players. So I think if you added the incentive of trying to stay up, ownership groups would start putting more money into their teams.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the counter argument to that is it's America.
That's true.
And if your team that's in MLS goes down a division, do you really think the support's going to be there for it? Because I think that's like one of their big things. Okay, this team is in MLS. Everybody's kind of on equal playing ground right now. Everybody has the same rules to follow. I mean, everybody still would, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But now they're going to be, down a league.
Right.
And are the fans really going to support it, or are they just there to see pro
soccer,
like one league soccer?
Yeah, yeah. See, I'm actually in the small minority that actually doesn't support promotion and relegation. I do think the rules of expansion are absolutely ridiculous. Having to pay like $350 to $500 million just to get into MLS, and then having to make a stadium, like that's a little ridiculous. Like a team shouldn't have to spend almost $1 billion to get into MLS. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the expansion process should be a little bit easier on teams, but I don't entirely support the promotion and relegation because I feel like if you add relegation, it doesn't add stability to the league. Like they're trying to get stability in MLS right now. It's still a relatively young league. If you look at leagues around the world, like the Premier League, well, not including the modern Premier League, but if you go back to like the English Division I, it goes back to the 1800s. So they have hundreds of years of stability using that kind of system. It's just all they've ever known.
Yeah.
And if MLS, a remarkably young league, who's still kind of trying to find their place in the worldwide soccer, I don't know, like
trying to find its
a global
roots.
image in worldwide soccer. Yeah. There we go. Promotion and relegation would kind of hurt that because they're still trying to build that image. But I think 20 years down the road, maybe it'll be a completely different league, different rules and everything. Yeah, it'll be more stable.
It'll definitely be interesting to see. One of the things with the Premier League is, one, they've been around forever. And, they had their roots. That's where soccer has its roots.
Right, right.
And honestly, that's what people have known for all of their lives. That's the sport. That's the thing that everyone follows in Europe.
Right.
It's not necessarily, they have cricket, I guess, and maybe
like,
rugby, but that's kind of second tier to football or soccer.
Right.
But in America, we have all these competing sports such as baseball, football, basketball. So adding stability to the league by having expansion and not promotion and relegation, I feel like is a good thing, although I like the prospect of promotion and relegation.
Like somewhere down the road, I think it should be implemented, but definitely not now while we're still a really, really young league.
And maybe you even need more teams.
You think so?
Or if, because I feel like there's just such a steep gap from USL
That's true.
to MLS.
That's true.
That the quality of side would just be so horrendous.
Yeah.
Or in such a steep step that would really hurt the team.
I mean, just look at like Minnesota and Orlando and FC Cincinnati. They come up from USL and they're doing worse than teams that just came into MLS outright. You look at teams like LAFC and Atlanta who have ownership groups that are spending money like that. And they don't have any prior kind of connections to people. Like that's the thing. When these teams are USL teams, they build connections with players that they bring up because the fans like them. And I feel like it's harder for USL teams to expand into MLS because of the fact that they have players already. So there's that temptation to bring up USL players.
Correct.
Because it's cheap. It's a body on the pitch. You know what I mean? But if you're like an Atlanta or an LAFC who has no one, then you have nobody to like tempt you to bring up lesser quality players.
Yeah.
But when you have FC Cincinnati or Minnesota or Orlando who have these players that people have come attached to, they're cheap, why wouldn't you want to bring them up?
Yeah.
Then you bring them up and you realize, oh crap, these guys are not good enough, bar a few. Very, very few.
Yeah.
But a few.
Such as on FC Cincinnati squad, they have Emmanuel Ledesma, who hasn't played magnificent this season, has at least been somewhat of a consistent starter for them. And, while not being great, has done some things well.
Right. I think he's more of like a role player. Like he does his thing okay. Like he's not bad, but he definitely wouldn't be a starter most other MLS teams, I think.
Yeah,
he'd be a good bench player.
Mm-hmm.
But
bench player, role player.
Right.
But, that was reigning USL MVP.
Right, but see, it's really hit or miss with USL MVPs because like FC Cincinnati's first season they had what's his name, Sean O'Coley.
Yeah.
Golden Boot and MVP, went to NYCFC, was bad. And now he's like, let me check. Last time I checked, he was in like the second or third division of Sweden.
Okay.
So that
sucks.
Yeah, it's really hit or miss with the quality of the league. Let's see where he's playing now. Okay, I'm going to try and pronounce this.
Okay.
If there's any fans of this team listening, I'm sorry. Pinsgau Saalfelden. They play in the third tier of Austrian football.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is not good for our boy Sean O'Coley, and he has made a single appearance. So he went from being MLS.
He's making $10 an hour.
Oh, like $10 a week, maybe, if he's lucky. So he went from being an USL Golden Boot winner and MVP winner to playing for New York City. He scored 1 in 16. Then he went to Landskrona Boys.
Landskrona Boys?
Landskrona Boys, who play in the third tier of Swedish soccer. They got relegated last season, though, so he was like second tier.
Gotcha.
And then he went to Jerv or Yerv. It's probably Yerv.
Jerv or Yerv?
I think it's Yerv. It is top
wait.
flight in Norway, I think.
Okay, so Jerv or Yerv isn't an actual team name. It's Jerv or...
Yeah, Jerv or Yerv. I'm assuming Yerv because it's Scandinavian. And then Pinsgau Saalfelden.
Pinsgau Saalfelden.
Close enough.
Interesting name.
But yeah, so...
It's, yeah,
but then you've got Emmanuel Ledesma, who's, I'd say, considering all things, he's made the move pretty well.
Yeah.
Because there aren't many players who've come from USL and really been incredible.
Yeah. Not on the topic of USL, but more on the topic of MLS expansion teams.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you.
Okay.
See what your opinion is. Throw it out there. Do you think that when teams win the expansion, all right, how many ever teams throw their lot in? Okay.
Right.
And then Don Garber has selected, I don't know,
Sacramento,
Bismarck, North Dakota, Bison,
right,
for the next MLS side.
Right.
Whether it's somebody from the USL that's going up,
right,
or they're just a team
like LAFC,
like LAFC.
Yeah.
Should there be an allotted amount of time that's like you cannot join the league until this many days have passed?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think there needs to be a minimum amount of time because of the fact that teams can sometimes get into the league a little too soon. FC Cincinnati, and they're not prepared. Because let me look at what's happened. They're historically bad.
Yeah, FC Cincinnati are they historically bad? Are like the worst MLS?
They're
team?
not the worst MLS team ever. Because sweet Orlando City holds that crown for 77 goals scored on.
Nice.
So we're not. FC Cincinnati is not the worst, but they're close. I think it was like 45 goals scored on them the last time I checked, and there's 10 games left in the season. So it's a fine margin from being the worst.
Yeah, but
They-
still, that amount of time that they had to go into the league,
Yeah.
I remember seeing a stat on it. Out of all the MLS expansion teams, FC Cincinnati had the least amount of time to get ready by far of any
Yeah.
team.
They had like less than 1 year to get ready, I think.
Yeah, and
It
look
was like
at,
200 something days.
I mean, I hate to go on and on about it, but LAFC,
Yeah, they had a long
they
time.
had a long time to get ready,
Mhm.
but they took one season. They didn't like shoot. That wasn't
They
miraculous.
got to the playoffs, didn't they?
Got to the playoffs. Didn't do anything huge. But then next year comes along. They have stability. They get Carlos Vela,
And yeah,
and
I mean,
they just destroy the MLS.
that's like Atlanta. First season qualified for the playoffs, didn't do much, yada yada yada. Next season they won the cup. So, these teams that are taking their time are kind of figuring out where they need to go.
Yeah.
Also, let's move on to another point because it's 16 minutes in right now.
I got you.
So, moving on to our next segment, major fixtures of the week.
All right.
I'm
Let's
going to
go.
open up. So, LA Galaxy versus Atlanta. Talking about Atlanta, we've been doing that a lot recently.
Mm-hmm.
There was a penalty that was called. We'll talk about the own goals later. I think everybody kind of knows about the own goals now. But we're going to talk about the penalty first. And I personally think, I don't know if you watched it,
Okay.
I personally think it was a little questionable
Okay.
because of the fact there was very little contact. It was very unclear about what was contact and what was just him like tripping over his own foot.
Okay.
And they checked VAR and they gave it to them and it was a penalty, but that was kind of whatever. They're already 2-0 up on own goals.
Yeah. And Martinez ended up taking a penalty.
Yeah.
Correct?
Also interesting to note, he didn't do his traditional little penalty run up
Yeah.
where he does that little skip, hop, and a jump. You know what I mean?
I like to try and knock that out there on a soccer pitch sometimes.
It doesn't work.
It's not as good as he does it.
I don't even know how he does it, honestly. Like I want to talk to him and see how he came up with that. Like, what went through your mind that caused you to be like, I'm gonna jump before I take my penalty?
Yeah.
Is that something he just decided to do in MLS, or is that something he's been doing his whole career?
All
Anyway,
his life, no one knows. Well, actually, he knows.
Also, I don't want to knock the LA Galaxy goalkeeper too much, Bingham, because he actually had a pretty good game, other than the 2 own goals, which were kind of out of his power to deal with. It was just their defense was a little off today.
And so, how do you think about Zlatan being red carded? How do you think that this affected the game? Because that was a major point going into the game, and obviously they lost
Right.
by a decent margin. So
I think, and again, this is my opinion, I think they were definitely worse off because now their striker's Antuna, who's still a good player, but he's not Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
yeah,
It would really depend on how much effort Zlatan put forward, because you've seen some games where he just kind of doesn't put forth his best effort. If he cares about the game, he's unstoppable. If he doesn't care about the game, he's just an average MLS striker.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, let's compare his games from LAFC last time, like the most recent
yeah,
LAFC versus LA Galaxy game versus his time they played FC Cincinnati. He scored a hat trick against LAFC, who is definitely the best team in MLS right now as it stands.
correct.
And then in FC Cincinnati, he was shut down by Nick Hagland.
Which is embarrassing.
Not talking down about Nick Hagland, but he's not an all-star defender.
Absolutely not.
But that shows that Zlatan Ibrahimovic, he has his off days. He can care a little bit less about some games than others. So it really depended on about how much he cared about this game against Atlanta. Which I would think he would care a lot because, he's Zlatan and he enjoys big games.
And where's LA Galaxy in the playoff spot right now?
Oh, they're first in the league.
Really?
Like the whole league, yeah.
Are you sure?
Let's check real quick.
LA Galaxy?
Oh, Galaxy. I think you said FC. Let me check real quick. Little phone break here. Give me a second. LA Galaxy.
Yeah, because I was like 100% sure LAFC was number 1.
They are 4th place.
So they really could have used a W
San
today.
Jose is in 2nd place in the West?
Really? How many points behind LAFC?
Like 14.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I don't think anyone's going to catch up with LAFC.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the East, the Eastern Conference leader is Atlanta with 39, and LAFC has 52. So I think they're definitely winning the Supporters
Yeah,
Shield.
Supporters Shield is all but gotten for LAFC.
Right.
But
Kudos to San Jose, though. I didn't know that.
they've definitely improved.
Oh, yeah.
San Jose used to be like the,
Last season
the
they
scum
finished-
of MLS.
Last season, they finished pretty bad.
I apologize to San Jose fans, but I'm sure you'd all agree that you were the scum of MLS for
Let's
many
not
years.
say scum. Let's say worst team. Scum is a little harsh.
Well, look at you now. You made it to the second place, and you're probably going to get beaten by LAFC, but it's good to see progress.
Yeah,
And
it's all
you can
about
only hope.
progress for bad teams.
Ooh, roasted.
Listen, if you're a bad team, you don't really have much to look forward to except progress in the
Yep.
coming years.
That's exactly right.
So, about this game with LA Galaxy and LA,
Yeah,
or
mhm.
LA Galaxy and Atlanta.
Go ahead.
Atlanta started out pretty rough this season. I don't think anyone really denies that. Even Atlanta fans would say that they started out pretty rough.
Oh, yeah.
But what do you think changed? Because now they're top of the East.
Well, here's my take on it, Matt.
Okay.
So, I think it was all the Atlanta fans asking for the firing of DeBoer
Okay.
that really inspired the coach to get on his team
Right.
and to just go out there and start playing Atlanta United football.
Okay.
That really is the real reason behind everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so Atlanta fans, that's what you've done. Congratulations.
I think it was they just got used to his style a little bit more.
Most likely,
'Cause
but I
he's-
still hold fast to
DeBoer-
my opinion.
Right. I mean, you're probably right. Your vast knowledge, but
Mm-hmm.
I think because Frank DeBoer plays a vastly different system than Tata Martino, which I'm not really sure what Tata Martino's system was, but there was a large difference between him and DeBoer.
Yeah.
So DeBoer plays that signature Dutch 4-3-3, which was a lot different than what Tata did.
Mm-hmm.
And especially selling Almiron, which was a terrible mistake in my opinion. They brought in P.D. Martinez. God rest his soul.
As good as you think he would.
Right. And him going to a different country under a newly appointed head coach who played a completely different style. Not only did everybody have to get used to Almiron being gone and PT being his replacement, they had to get used to this new system that was drastically different. So I think it just took some time for them to kind of gel with
Mhm.
DeBoer and their new system. But now they're kind of starting to gel, obviously, because you can see at the top of the East. So
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
side note, just set the record again for the most amount of people for a regular season game against the LA Galaxy.
Right. Congratulations to Atlanta United.
Yep.
What-
Yeah. You inspired your coach, and then you went out there and got the regular season attendance
Listen.
record. So, is there anything that Atlanta United fans cannot do?
Not be plastic.
Oh, you got him.
I'm kind of tempted to just leave that in.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Yeah, you should.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see what the attendance was for that game, because I know it was like 70-something thousand.
It was 72.
72,548 people. Kudos to Atlanta United, although that is only because you play in an NFL stadium.
That is correct. Not a soccer specific stadium, but a NFL stadium.
So let's talk. We'll get back to the itinerary here. See, let's talk about this for a hot take, everybody. Are you ready for this?
Hot take by Matthew Kelly and Joe Ellison.
I think the only reason Atlanta United got away with that stadium is because of the fact they were, the team in MLS. They were Don Garber's little baby.
Amen, amen.
And
he says
I'm
amen
not-
again.
I'm not gonna talk crap because I respect the team and what they've done and the ownership group. Their ownership group's been great. The team is incredibly talented, but they got away with something that MLS specifically stated isn't okay.
Yep.
They, and people argue, well, it was co-designed with the NFL team, so it was like it kind of counts for both. But that's not That's not Don Garber's requirements, according to himself. He said specifically soccer-specific stadium, which means one team, one sport, and that sport is soccer.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So
you can't have people like expansion dreams, expansion teams such as like Austin.
Right.
Austin FC, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Or are they going for SC?
It's SC, I think.
SC.
Maybe,
yeah.
I don't know.
Something
They
like that.
look like broccoli, that's all I know.
Yeah, that's right.
Broccoli
Bold
FC.
and brass. I don't know. Anyway, so you look at Austin FC or SC,
Yeah.
and then you look at Nashville.
Yeah.
They're not going to have their own football stadium to go into.
It is FC.
It is FC.
It is FC.
Oh, they're not filthy casuals. They went with the FC.
Hmm.
Wait a minute. I just realized that filthy casuals abbreviation is
Yo!
FC.
Austin Filthy Casuals. Let's go.
Anyway, so, yeah, they're not going to be able to do that. That's not going to be an option for them. They're going to have to build a soccer-specific stadium.
Right.
Now, I think Don Garber cares about that money.
Right, I was about to say, I think it's all about that money.
That cash cow that is the Atlanta United Stadium.
Yes.
And
Don't get me
Atlanta
wrong,
United.
it is a gorgeous stadium.
It is very
It's
nice.
the best it's the best stadium in North America right now.
That is a very bold statement.
Well, if we're talking soccer specific.
We're
talking soccer specific. It has to go to Minnesota United.
Actually, Minnesota United's soccer stadium is absolutely fire. It is very clean.
It is. I mean, it is.
It's
I mean, it might be.
very
It might be a copy of Juventus's stadium and Bayern
It is
Munich
actually
stadium.
a copy of
But
them,
they
it's
put an American twist on it by making it smaller.
yes.
So
By putting less seats in
Yes.
in the whole stadium,
Because-
it's not the same.
because we're not as popular as other sports in America, therefore stadiums are smaller.
Is it not literally the same name?
Yeah, it is. But that's because they have the same sponsor.
Oh,
So
it
there's
is.
like the
okay.
Allianz Field, Allianz Stadium, Allianz
Okay,
Arena.
gotcha.
Yeah.
But I mean, give credit where it's due.
It's a good looking stadium.
Minnesota United Stadium looks really dope.
But they need to have like a little like annotation above the stadium that says via Bayern Munich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same stadium, but it still looks good, so I can't knock him for that.
Mhm.
But if we're talking just like stadiums in general, Mercedes-Benz is definitely up there.
Yeah, it has
But
to be.
If we're talking soccer specific,
Minnesota United.
shared stadiums excluded, definitely Minnesota United.
Yeah, I agree. Well, moving on from that, I'm going to talk about another fixture that happened this week, and that was Toronto versus New York. And we did have a little bit of drama, a little bit of controversy
Did we know?
that went on. Yeah.
Sips the tea.
So, right now, both Toronto and New York are kind of vying for a playoff spot.
Right.
Toronto's right now in the 8th position,
Right.
I believe, anyway. They're right on the cusp of being in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And New York is they're up there,
Mm.
and they're kind of trying to get up. They're like push up in the slots,
Right.
They're kind of like 4th, 5th, something like that. And so, consider it a big game for both of them because they both want to win. They both want to put numbers 3 points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Started off, Toronto really kind of squandered their chances. Held possession for a lot of the time,
Mm-hmm.
but really couldn't get, anything off the ground. They ended up having a goal called off because it was offside. Altidore.
Now,
What's
do
that?
you buy the offside call, or do you think it was a little questionable?
I think it was an all right call.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't too terrible. It looked clean from back where one of the cameras was
Yeah.
going at. But they ended up determining that it was eventually off because it did result in a goal. So
Right.
they did have to go back and look at it and make sure that.
So they did check VAR.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So they ended up calling it off. Altidore was really mad, but
Well, of course.
yeah. Toronto ended up taking a lot of shots, but really couldn't find the back of the net.
Mm.
They did make one big push up the field, and it was about the 43rd minute. and that's when I'm sure everybody's seen it. It was on MLS's Instagram. And
Was that the penalty call?
no, it wasn't the
No?
penalty call. There was a pass to the right side of the box, which was then flipped over to the left,
Right.
and it was beamed right at the goal. But I don't know, it's like Robles or
Oh yeah.
Robles made it a great
Oh yeah.
adjusting save to get over there really quickly after being down on the ground at
I saw
the
that.
right side of the goal.
So
So,
kudos to him for making a ridiculous save.
I mean, it was a great save by him. Yes, and I think it was in the 40. I can't remember if it was like right before halftime or not. But Kaku was able to cut inside on the right side of the box and took a shot at the goal, was deflected off the Toronto player for an own goal.
Yeah.
Which I've heard from you that there's been a lot of own goals recently.
Yeah. So tonight, and when I mean tonight, I mean Saturday night. There was a record number of own goals scored in the league tonight.
And how many was that? Do you
I believe
remember?
it was 5 own goals tonight. So there was 2 for LAFC, 1 for Toronto. Not LAFC. Good God, LA Galaxy.
LA Galaxy. It was 2 for LA Galaxy.
Yeah. There was 1 for Kai Kamara
In
in
Colorado
game.
And what a dramatic game that was.
That we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
That was an amazing game. So I know of those 3, and then the one in the Red Bulls game.
Yeah.
So that's 4. I can't remember what the other one was from,
Yeah, I'm not sure at the moment.
but 5 was the
Yeah.
number.
Gotcha. So halftime ended, and they went on. Then in the 57th minute, a penalty was given to the Red Bulls, which was, in my opinion,
Is that the questionable
very,
call?
very questionable. It looked like a flop from the great name of, what was it, Reese Buckmaster?
Reese Buckmaster.
Reese Buckmaster, my favorite MLS player.
I
Not
don't think
really.
that's
I just
true.
like the name. But it looked. I'm gonna be honest. In my opinion, it looked like a direct flop. There was a teeny bit
There
of
was
contact.
a bit of contact. I'm not going to deny that.
There was a teeny bit of contact, but in my opinion, he really flopped,
Yeah, it
and
looked a little
he sold
exaggerated.
it. And
Yeah.
so, if I was a Toronto fan, I would have been vivid with anger.
Vivid with anger.
Yes, I would have been.
Gotcha.
I would have been extremely annoyed at this Red Bulls player,
Right.
Buckmaster. But, as they say, ball don't lie, and Royer stepped up and skied the penalty right over the box.
Did you
So-
say ball don't lie?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
You never heard that?
I've never heard that.
Well, see,
We'll talk about this later.
Richard Hamilton from the Detroit Pistons said
Richard
that.
Hamilton.
Yes. Extremely unrelated to soccer, but
Joel, this is a soccer podcast.
But it's a very widely known phrase. Ball
Well,
don't lie. And
I'm
ball didn't
sorry.
lie. It went over top of the goal.
As they would say in, I can't remember if they say it in PES or FIFA, it ended up in row Z. Yeah.
Yes. It
I think
does.
it's PES. I think they say that in PES because I probably would have remembered if it was FIFA.
Yes. So,
he really blasted that one over.
yeah,
the
he
wall.
botched it.
Yeah.
And so, game went on. Red Bulls really got possession of the ball. It
Mhm.
kind of became the Red Bulls game.
Right.
Toronto really couldn't finish on anything. In frustration off a goal kick, Toronto got a red card given to Justin Morrow. He's trying to play the ball
Right.
and head down the field, but he couldn't get it. Got frustrated and kind of tackled a guy in a bad way. Ended up getting
red card?
Ended up getting a red card. Yeah.
Dang.
So then 91st minute, ball in from Kaku went right through the hands of the Toronto goalkeeper. It was chipped in by I think Kamar Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
So ended up being a 2-0 win for the Red Bulls as they're attempting to climb the board near the end of the season. Toronto still left behind for that 8th spot, looking to climb the Eastern Conference. Some notes to kind of hold on to after the game was kind of disappointing for Toronto. They held 65% possession. Another thing, even though they held 65% possession, Red Bulls got off 21 shots to Toronto's 10. Toronto held 82% passing to 66% Red Bulls. So kind of agonizing stats there for Toronto. And if you're the Red Bulls, you kind of feel like you were able to just keep pressure on them
Right.
and capitalize when you needed to.
Right. So, not gonna lie, you kind of sounded like a meteorologist there.
There's going to be a 95% chance of goals for this next topic we're going to talk about, because that's all there was in the Colorado versus.
All right, we're gonna go to Colorado next.
What was it? The Montreal
6-3.
Impact?
Yes.
Yes, there was lots of goals.
6-3 to the Colorado Rapids.
So that's a total for 9.
Wow, I didn't know that. So let me pull up the stats because I didn't do this beforehand.
Yeah.
Ended up being 6-3 to Colorado. There was it wasn't a Kai Kamara own goal. Wait, it was. There were two own goals in this game.
Oh, so that's where the other
That's
own
where the
goal
other ones came from. So there was one for a E. Bush.
Okay.
What
Sorry,
is this?
didn't mean to laugh.
Oh,
but
it was
E.
their
Bush
goalkeeper,
kinda
Evan
funny.
Bush,
Oh.
Montreal's goalkeeper.
How does that happen?
Probably just went in off of him. And then that was the 21st minute. Kai Kamara had an own goal just a couple minutes before that.
And what a beautiful own
What
goal
a beautiful
it was.
own goal that was.
It really looked like he was
Perfect.
a striker for the other team.
Perfectly played. It honestly looked like he thought, like he lost the plot for a minute.
That was premeditated murder for the
Premeditated
Colorado
murder.
Rapids.
Oh, they actually did sub Tim Howard off. I wonder if he got injured. I didn't look that up.
Yeah,
Maybe he got injured.
Neither did I. Sorry, Colorado fans.
But then Kai Kamara made up for it by getting a hat trick in this game.
I know.
Second hat trick of his
Ridiculous.
career, which is pretty cool for him.
So he scores an own goal,
Yeah.
goes out there and gets a hat trick.
So he scored a 36-minute penalty. He scored right before halftime, and then he scored in the last minute of regulation. In the 90th minute. And then there were goals from Maxi Arruti in the 55th minute. Rubio, what's your first name? Diego Rubio. In the last minute of extra time in the first half. That was that time where
Because they scored 2 goals
Yeah.
in that period of time.
A player for Montreal who I'm not going to begin to pronounce his last name because I do not want to botch it. I do know the player. I am not saying his last name publicly. I will say his first name is Safir.
Okay.
He scored in the 76th minute. It was a penalty. And then 78th minute, the rookie Andre Shinyashiki put it in the back of the net.
All right. So
I would say, just real quick,
Yeah,
he's definitely been the best player of the draft this season.
absolutely. I would agree. He has to be Rookie of the Year.
Absolutely. I don't think there's anybody else that really. I mean, Frankie Amaya is good. He's been
Yeah.
playing good for Cincinnati, but he has nothing besides passing accuracy right now.
Correct. His finishing leaves a lot to be desired, and
Right.
it's just you see a lot more out of Shinyashiki. You see a lot more out of him than you
Yeah.
do Frankie Amaya at this
Which
point.
is okay, kind of, because Frankie's not a striker. But
Correct.
Andre is a striker.
Yeah.
But you'd expect Frankie to be getting assists at this point, and he hasn't gotten a single one. So he's
Yeah.
0-0 on goals and assists.
in several appearances now. So
Yeah, I think he's played 13 or so games for FC Cincinnati now and started 9 of them maybe.
yeah,
And he's still kind of lacked that finishing quality with assist and, just finishing outright.
yeah,
So I definitely think if Frankie could kind of be more involved in that finished product, he would be looked at as a Rookie of the Year. But as of right now, it's definitely Andre Shinyashiki. I mean, he scored like 5 goals,
yeah,
5-6 goals for Colorado.
yeah. And there's several people that are trying to say that they have their Rookie of the Year. Many people, I think I saw this week an MLS post
Yeah.
have Shinyashiki
Yeah, yeah.
as number 1, and under him is Frankie Amaya.
Mm.
Then there was a couple different players that were under him, but I saw several people were like they liked their guy.
Mm.
I couldn't really remember who it was, but if anybody has a case for their rookie to be a
It's
Rookie of the Year, it has to
yeah.
be Shinyashiki.
I mean, I
So-
just checked, and he's gotten 4 goals, 1 assist, and 20 appearances. I don't know how often he started. Obviously, he has to kind of compete with with Kai Kamara for starting time up front.
Yeah.
Unless they play, they play two up front with together. But for a rookie, he wasn't the first overall pick. I think he's been a great player for Colorado. I don't think people really expected much from this draft class.
Yeah.
Expected more than recent years, but I think he's definitely kind of blown expectations out of the water.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and he's playing in Colorado, so it's not like they're going to lose anything. He has everything to gain.
Well, they're going to lose games.
Well, I mean, Colorado isn't going to win anything this year.
Right.
So it's really just something for their rookie to be able to experience, get some playing time.
Right.
It's going to help him.
Right.
There's nothing to really lose by playing him at this point.
Exactly, yeah.
So
I think that's what Cincinnati's trying to do with Frankie Amaya, too. They're bottom of the league. I don't think they really have anything to lose by playing Frankie Amaya over. Plus, I think he's their only real, number 10, somebody that can play there. They've got other versatile players that can play there, but it's not their natural position,
Mm-hmm.
That's Frankie's natural position. Anyway, moving on to a different league, a little more south from the United States.
Yeah.
Liga MX.
Let's go, Liga MX. What do you got?
I watched a game between Santos Laguna and Atlas. This was actually the first Liga MX game I ever watched.
Really?
Yeah, I'd never really paid attention to Liga MX. I kind of focused on the Bundesliga and MLS.
Yeah.
And it was pretty exciting. It was a 2-1 win for Santos Laguna. They were both 2 out of 2 wins, so they won 2 games out of the 2 they played. So it was kind of a competition for
so who's going to take home the tiebreaker?
Right, who's gonna continue with that undefeated win streak, and who's not. Obviously they could have tied, but they didn't. It was a 2-1 win for Santos Laguna. It was actually pretty even.
Oh wait, so are you talking about a series that they've had they've played each other a couple times during the season? They've won
No.
2 and
So they've played 2 games in the season. The season just started.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the season just started.
Yeah.
They were both 2 wins out of the 2 games.
I gotcha.
Right. So they were they were going to compete for who was going to hold on to that top spot.
I understand.
15 minutes in, Brian Lozano. This guy had a game, by the way. He was incredible. Brian Lozano. There was a mistake by an Atlas defender, and they kind of just lost the ball.
Yeah.
And he flicked it up in the air, knocked it back down with his head, and when it bounced off of the ground from it hitting his head, he hit it off like a half volley.
Wow.
I mean, rifled this thing in. It was I had to pause the I wasn't even a fan of these clubs, and I had to pause the video and be like, holy crap, that just happened.
Dang.
I only got to watch the first half of it, but of what I watched, it was pretty even.
Mm-hmm.
I will say both of their defenses were rather good. And I think any other day the result could have been flip-flopped.
Well, didn't they end up having a really dramatic penalty in the end?
Yeah, so they did have a penalty in the last minute of extra time.
Which was a great result for the winning team.
Right. But at that point it was kind of too late, It was the last minute of extra time. They get a penalty. You can't really come back from that.
Oh, yeah.
But it was good defense all around. Other than Brian Lozano, it seemed like everybody else kind of struggled, on the finishing, the attacking third.
Mm-hmm.
The defenses were just too good, and they kind of lost the ball in midfield in the attacking third a lot.
Yeah.
It was. I'm an MLS guy, and it was remarkable how much they lost the ball in midfield sometimes. And Brian Lozano scored again in the 86th minute, I want to say.
Okay.
Let me check real quick. 86th minute. So he was definitely man of the match for me. He played remarkable the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to keep up with Liga MX because that was enjoyable, and it's still really close because it's so early into the season. So for you Liga MX fans out there, I will have more news coming for you soon.
That's right.
So, speaking of big games.
Okay.
There's one big game that really comes to mind for MLS this weekend.
All right, what's that?
This week. That'd be the MLS All-Star game, Joel.
Oh, the MLS All-Star game.
It was terrible.
It was
bad.
It was not something to be enjoyed by all, except for maybe the Atletico Madrid fans that were watching that kind of wanted to see their young players out there.
Right, who scored. João Felix did score a ridiculous goal, and that shows you how far behind the league is.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, they had Wayne Rooney, they had Nani out there, they
Vela,
had Carlos Vela,
Ibrahimovic.
Ibrahimovic. Now, they probably weren't trying all that
Right.
hard,
Right.
but
Still.
I mean, at that point, like, you need to be trying at least a little bit.
Right. Like
you,
it was.
you can't be like shut out 3-0
Right.
and have Wayne Rooney, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Carlos Vela, and Nani
Right.
on your team.
Like,
That shouldn't happen.
granted, they didn't really score that much. Like it was 3-0, but they scored right before halftime and then very late into the game. But it was, other than that, it was still kind of a bad game for MLS. Just because, like, they were playing their D team
Yeah.
and were still kind of getting stomped.
Yeah. I mean, people can say, "Oh, well, they
It's a
just beat
friendly.
Real Madrid, and they got 7 goals against Real Madrid."
Right.
But I mean, that's true. But you can't. If these are their stars,
Yeah.
these are like the people that your league says,
Yeah.
these are the best people that we
Yeah.
have in this league. I mean, imagine, I think you brought it up to me once before. Imagine if the Premier League had an all-star thing. Be unbelievable. Or La Liga.
Yeah.
It would just be incredible.
And see, the difference between this game and the Real Madrid game is Atletico was not playing like any of their starters in the first half against the All-Stars.
Yeah.
So, like, the lineup was completely different. In the game against Real Madrid, they were both playing their top team, their top players, like players that would start in the league on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But they played like their D team in the first half and were up 1-0. And then they brought out their big guns, Diego Costa and João Felix, and scored 2 more.
Yeah.
So if they had played their whole, like, starting 11,
It might have been 5-0.
it would have been really bad.
And the thing is, they had their young guys, I guess, wanting to play well so
Yeah.
that they can get that first time. I mean,
right.
they all knew who Wayne Rooney is.
Right,
They all knew who
and
Zlatan
Zlatan
Ibrahimovic is.
Maybe even Carlos Vela, because he played in La
Yeah,
Liga before.
and I mean, he's made a name for himself in MLS.
Right.
So they know who these people are, and
Yeah.
if they can impress their
Against
manager,
them, yeah.
with having a good game against this,
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't necessarily just an all-star game for them. This is their chance to prove themselves.
Yeah.
So, again, yeah, they might have a little more motivation and a chance of, like, we're going to prove ourselves here. We're going to try and get some playing time for Atletico Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you can't get knocked out 3-0
Right.
in the All-Star game when this is your best people in the league.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing.
It really is
Kind
for
of
MLS, and it was, I mean, not to just go crazy ham on MLS, but even the production quality I felt was kind of lacking, and sometimes even like the mic stuff was weird, and like having the players talk to the commentators while being in the game.
That's I know they did that last year too.
Yeah, I think I remember Brad Guzan.
Brad Guzan.
Yes, I think I remember him in last year's All-Star game being mic'd up, and I was like, what in the world is going on?
Like, I remember when we were watching it in the first half, they were talking to Walker Zimmerman.
Yeah, Walker
And
Zimmerman.
He was closing a dude down, and they were trying to interview this guy
Yeah,
while he's trying to tackle a dude from Atletico Madrid.
I mean,
Like,
maybe that's why they
little-
lost 3-0 because they had the commentators in their ears trying to bug at them the entire time,
Maybe. So, yeah, hopefully next year's a little bit better, but we'll have to wait and see till next year.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Okay.
Transfer roundup.
All right.
Slow
Hit
week.
me with the transfer roundup.
Slow week at MLS transfers this week, but
Slow week.
there were many big transfers overseas.
Ah.
So we'll start with the one pretty decent MLS transfer this week.
All right. Hit me with it.
Andrew Gutman from Celtic to FC Cincinnati on a loan deal till the end of next season. Pretty good.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a big thing for them.
So now because they don't really have a natural left back right now besides Greg Garza, who's out
Yeah.
injured, and will
Glass
probably.
Bones Jones, Greg Garza.
Dang, you really did it to him.
I did do it to him.
But, I mean, who
Doesn't
knows how
play.
long he's going to be out? And when he comes back in, he might immediately get injured
he'll
again,
probably just get injured.
like with Orlando.
But
No bad talk to the man, because
no, he's great.
when he's healthy, he's the best left back in the league. But FC Cincinnati needs somebody they can count on right now, and Andrew Gutman is that guy.
Yeah.
Now they're going to be able to play Duplan on his natural right position, right back, and they won't have a backup player playing as their starting right back.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not. Gutman isn't somebody that everybody in the MLS or America is going to be like, oh man,
Right.
we just signed Andrew Gutman.
Right.
We are literally the best team in MLS.
Right.
They,
Like, it's not.
like
I
no
don't think
FC
it's-
Cincinnati fan is going to be like that. They're not
Right.
going to like.
It's not like a Carlos Vela.
Yeah,
signing.
but I think
It's a solid
FC
improvement.
Cincinnati fans have to be happy that they at least got someone on the defensive end that can play.
They've been improving their defense this window, which is exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah. So what else? What do you got?
Danny Alves,
Danny
the
Alves,
crazy Brazilian himself.
free agent.
He has gone to Sao Paulo in Brazil.
Sao Paulo.
I know there were a lot of people wanting him to come to MLS, and I know he got some offers from MLS, I believe.
Who was
Maybe,
it? Do you know?
I have no clue.
Probably be someone like NYCFC.
I was about to say probably like Inter Miami or something. It's very
Yeah.
Danny Alves-ish.
How old is he now?
He's 37.
That
36,
is a
37.
total NYCFC move.
That is
Let
an
us
NYCFC
pay.
move.
They would pay millions and millions for
yeah.
an aging old man.
Granted, I think he would still be a wonderful
Oh,
defender.
he
in
would
MLS,
be,
yeah.
but that's a
Yeah.
very NYCFC
Yeah,
move.
it is. It is.
Tell me if you agree, NYCFC fans, but I'm pretty
Uh,
sure I'm accurate.
Yeah.
So
but yeah,
how well do you think he's going to perform down there? Do you think he's going
Honestly-
to do better, or is he just going to end his career kind of be mediocre?
I think, see, it's really tough because the Brazilian league is a tough league to play in. It's a very physically strenuous league to play in because of, like, the differences in altitude and temperatures. And,
Yeah.
like, it's how, it's hard. It's a hard league to play in. It's very physical. So I think he's going to struggle a little bit. I
Really?
think he is. Yeah,
I mean,
think
he is 37 years
Yeah,
old.
I
so.
think he's going to have a hard time kind of getting back into the swing of things. So I think he would have had a better career in MLS if he had gone to MLS. But I mean, hey, he wanted to end in kind of his home country, so
Yeah.
can't knock the man for wanting to go home.
Yeah, that's true.
Malcolm from Barcelona to Zenit St. Petersburg.
Ah, the famous
Yes.
Petersburg. I'm not even going to try and say the first name of that.
Zenit.
Zenit St.
Zenit
Petersburg.
St.
Okay.
Petersburg. So he's kind of taken a step back in his career. He went from Roma to Barcelona, which is a good move,
Yeah.
and then to St. Petersburg in the Russian Premier League.
Was it
So-
because of the money,
No, I think it just.
or is it just because he wasn't as good and
I don't
needed
think
to
he was
go-
as good. And then
So Barcelona
it was
overpaid
kind of just
or-
like the first team to offer for him,
Gotcha.
and they paid a pretty penny for him. They paid like $45 million. So
that's
it
pretty good.
definitely was a pretty big transfer.
That's an average FIFA transfer right there.
And he is only 22, so he has time to come back from it.
Yeah.
But I definitely think he kind of needs to kick it into high gear if he wants to retake his career, essentially.
Mhm.
Try and move back up the football ladders.
Gotcha.
Nicolas Pepe,
Hey, it's
Arsenal-
Nicolas Pepe.
Arsenal's record transfer.
And
fee.
who would have thought Arsenal would have shelled it out for Nicolas Pepe?
I don't think anybody thought Arsenal was going to spend any money whatsoever.
Cheers to Arsenal fans. They now
Around
have
the world.
something to think about.
Right. Maybe it'll make it a little bit better for them when they're reminded they're playing goat farmers from Serbia in the Europa League. I mean, it's true. Let's hope this dude gets you to the Champions League.
Yeah.
'Cause God knows you've been playing in the Europa League too long. Had the
Yep,
chance.
had the chance.
Had the chance to go to the Champions League, and they lost in the final to Chelsea in the Europa League.
How's that feel, Arsenal fans?
I wouldn't know. I'm not an Arsenal fan.
I'm asking the viewers.
I see. And then, yeah, so good luck to Arsenal and Nicolas Pepe. Hopefully he doesn't flop like most big Arsenal signings. But
I'm going to be honest. Really cold take. He's
okay,
going to flop.
you think he's gonna flop? Why do you think
Might
that?
be a hot take. Might be a cold thing.
Why do you think he's gonna flop? Is it just because it's Arsenal?
Yeah, honestly. I feel Arsenal, and I'm like, yeah, he's gonna not do anything great or special. He's gonna be average. Like, what was their last good player?
I mean, they got Aubameyang and Lacazette, but Aubameyang was tied for the Premier League Golden Boot this season, but they still finished in the Europa League.
Man, going in on Arsenal.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. I don't really.
It's all right. It's too easy.
Yeah. Anyway.
But hey, they got their guy.
Yeah.
Good for Arsenal. Hopefully, it helps them to actually do something in the Premier League, and maybe get something higher.
Champions League. Yeah, maybe get into the Champions League. Maybe win the FA Cup or something.
Yeah,
get some silverware.
Maybe get some silverware once in a while.
Last but not least, Patrick Cutrone from AC Milan to Wolves.
Let's go.
Here's my prediction: the Wolves are qualifying for Europe. I was about to say the Champions League, but I got a little safe there. I don't want to go that outrageous, but they're definitely going to qualify for Europe. They finished I think around ninth
in the Premier
last
League?
season. Yeah.
Wow, that was terrible.
And they've gotten a striker who's very talented, who's pretty young. He's got a long career ahead of him, and they've got him for $20 million. So a pretty good bargain, if you ask me.
Definitely, I feel like. Out of all the things you've said, I feel like this one's the most hopeful for success.
For sure. Because there isn't a huge, price that's going to cause him to feel pressured or anything.
Exactly.
It's not like, oh man, they just spent $75 million on me. It's not going to be whoop-de-doo, yada yada. Here I am, record transfer fee for this club. I have to perform. It's kind of like, okay. They didn't break the bank for me, but I still kind of have to perform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I believe he will, and I believe the Wolves they're looking nothing but up right now.
Right, I definitely think.
So for the off chance, the very big off chance that there's a minute chance that there's a Wolves fan listening, congratulations to you.
You got your man. I definitely think they're building. They're gonna build on last season for sure.
Yeah.
I think we'll see them in the top 6, barely maybe just miss out on the top 6. But see, they are already performing without Cutrone, and if Cutrone, I don't know.
Yeah.
But see, even if he doesn't perform, they have those players that got them there in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they still have a baseline ability to do decent.
Right.
So
that wraps up the transfer roundup.
Yep.
Moving on to upcoming major fixtures of the next week.
So what's going on?
Okay, so
This is MLS, correct?
MLS and Canadian Premier League.
Oh,
for
the
my
Canadian Premier League.
Disclaimer, I know very little about the Canadian Premier League.
As do I. But we are learning.
We are learning as we speak, and I am going to give you all a shout-out. 2 of their fans liked something on Twitter of ours.
That's
bam.
You know what? Let's go Canada.
We love you, Canada.
That's right. The Canadian Premier League has shown us a lot of love by giving us those 2 whole likes. And you know what?
James and John, I think.
James and John. Have you ever heard of James and John? Well, go follow them.
Let me check. I'm pretty sure.
Go to one of our posts. See who liked it. You'll see
Jason and James.
Jason and James, not
James.
John
Shout out
and
to
James.
Jason and James.
Jason and James. Go look at them, follow them.
Absolutely.
They deserve it.
So, upcoming major.
All right.
FC Cincinnati versus the Columbus Crew. 2 terrible teams.
Yes, they are
2
absolutely
in-state
garbage.
rivals. FC Cincinnati has beaten the Crew once. This is going to be their first meeting in MLS. I think the Crew is going to win.
I have a good feeling about this one for
who?
an outright win or loss.
So you don't think it's going to be a draw?
I do not think it's going to be a draw. I feel like the hell is real rivalry that they have going on. I feel like one of them's going to take it home, and it is at Columbus.
Yes.
And even though I feel like FC Cincinnati has made progress,
they're not made enough.
I don't feel like they've made enough progress.
We'll see if Gutman plays, though.
If Gutman plays, the guy they got on loan, from Celtic. I really just don't feel like it's going to be a draw.
I think it'll be 1-0
Yeah.
for either team. Like, it's not going to be a huge margin.
Both teams aren't really that good. I feel like
Yeah.
FC Cincinnati put some fight into it, as they usually do, but end up losing in the end, maybe to like an 80.
It's going to be a late goal. It's either going to be early or late.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, early or late. For me, I'm going to personally say it's probably going to be 1-0. Zardes scores 81st minute.
There you go.
Kind of sends FC Cincinnati home crying, and they take away that win. But what do we got next?
Atlanta versus NYCFC. I think Atlanta's going to take this one away because they've been red hot recently with form.
Absolutely.
Joseph Martinez is banging them in.
All from that penalty spot. Watch out. That's the most dangerous spot on the pitch.
Listen, if you get a penalty in the box, you better pray that Joseph Martinez doesn't do his little hop towards you.
Yep, you are basically screwed. It's a goal every time.
Absolutely. I still think, like, in all seriousness, I think Atlanta's going to win this. I think NYCFC. I keep saying LAFC. NYCFC is going to put up a fight for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Atlanta's going to come out on top at the end just because they have that kind of quality. There is only a 4-point gap between them. So a win for NYCFC could move them up into third place.
Is this at Atlanta?
This is at Atlanta.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. It's an NYCFC loss.
Yeah. I think it's either going to be close or Atlanta's going to blow them out of the water.
I could see it being 3-0.
Yeah.
3-0, and I don't know who scores, but
Probably. I'm going
I
to
mean,
say
you can never go wrong saying
just Martinez.
Martinez is going to score, and then most likely from the penalty spot. Am I right? But
Man, you're really dogging on Joseph Martinez.
yeah, just dogging on Atlanta.
That's true.
But we all know Atlanta's decent, so
Yeah.
maybe that's why we dog
I
on
think
them.
we just dog on them because we're scared of them, honestly.
I'm not scared of them.
You're scared of them.
I'm not scared.
I'm scared of
they're,
them.
Okay.
It's okay to say you're scared of them.
You can say you're scared of them. I'm not scared of them. I just know they're good.
There you go.
And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that one.
Yeah, I think NYCFC is going to put up a fight, but I think Joseph Martinez is going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah.
Maybe Barco. I don't know. I haven't really been paying attention to Barco recently, but definitely Joseph Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
And then the one for my Canadian fans.
CPO.
Cavalry versus Wanderers.
All
Now,
right.
with a win for Cavalry, they could move up into the top position in the Canadian Premier League, which would be a big win for them. And they're also playing one of the bottom teams in the league, so it could be an easy win.
The
or
Wanderers?
Or Wanderers could really put up a fight and make it a lot harder than it seems. So I think Cavalry needs to not get complacent.
Yeah.
If they get complacent, it's game over, you know?
Yeah.
Because you can never get complacent, especially when you're playing a team who's bottom of the league. And if you walk in there assuming you're going to win, you probably won't win. So I think Cavalry just needs to fight like they would just any other team, and they'll come out of there with a win. I don't know any of their star players. I'm sorry. I'll figure it out.
We're going to learn about the Canadian Premier League. We're going to understand
It's
it a little bit more.
new league,
So, yeah, it'll be good to see the CPO grow, and many people think it has a lot of potential. And
I'm excited.
And so do
honestly.
I. My favorite team, and it's because, you know, I'm kind of biased because I like the team name. It's Forge FC.
Oh, is that why you like it?
Yeah. But, I mean, I'm still going to talk about every team with the same amount of, you know, whatever.
Right.
But it's a cool name. I like the way that they go about things.
They're basically like, don't hate me for this, Forge fans. They're like poor man's Toronto.
Poor man's Toronto is
'Cause
that
they're
is
from,
what
like-
they said. That's what he said. Poor
They're
man's
like,
Toronto.
They're from the same area. They're from Hamilton, which is like right next to Toronto.
Yeah.
And then you've got Toronto FC, who
Well, don't some of the Canadian Premier League teams play like Montreal and Toronto?
yeah.
I don't know what
That's
the deal
the Canadian
about that.
Championship.
Oh,
so
it's
that's like,
Canadian Championships.
Yeah. So that's like
That's right. I remember
it's
that
like
now.
the U.S. Open Cup, but for Canada.
Yeah, I remember
Which, of
that.
course, an MLS team wins it literally every year.
Yeah.
Because before the Canadian Premier League, who was the other Canadian team? Ottawa Fury and the USL.
Ooh.
which they're not going to win.
Yeah, it's kind of just.
It's really one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that has been the first episode of Curva Americana. Thank you for joining us. If you watch this whole thing, I will personally hand deliver you a cookie of your choice. I am Matt.
And this is Joel.
Signing off. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next time.